So over the weekend, there was a rally that was held in Washington, D.C., and it was after the Rage Against the War Machine rally. And so this was covered by many different outlets. Unlike the Rage Against the War Machine rally, which was covered by a couple of local outlets and Rachel Maddow, this one was covered by many. Don't believe me? Let's take a look. All right. So this is from Reuters. Yes, Reuters. All right, let's go.
Engineer a strengthening and
everything possible to uphold the fundamental principles.
365 days of sorrow, losses, tragedies, and destruction. But we are not talking about that today. We are talking about 365 days of heroic, almost impossible fight. Ukrainians put defending our homes, loved ones, our independence, our dignity, our sovereignty, freedom, and democracy.
Russia is a terrorist state.
Russia is a terrorist state.
I think that people were desperate and shocked and baffled, and this year it's different. This year we have hope, and we are certain that Ukraine will win, because we can see that Ukraine is winning already with the use of all the support from the US and Europe.
Save Ukraine! Save the world! Save Ukraine! Save the world! Shame on Russia! Shame on Russia!
Stop raping Ukrainians! Stop killing Ukrainian children!
So that's what happened over the weekend. But I just want to go back in and listen to what that young woman said. Make sure. Just want to hear what she had to say again. Because there's a particular narrative that's being spoken about. Okay. Hang on, let me make sure. Okay.
I think that people were desperate and shocked and baffled, and this year it's different. This year we have hope, and we are certain that Ukraine will win, because we can see that Ukraine is winning already with the use of all the support from the US and Europe.
So the focus isn't on ending the war. from what it sounds like, the focus is on winning the war. So this sounds like it's less of an anti-war rally and more a pro-war rally. This wasn't like the rally last week, where they were talking about both sides put your arms down and let's negotiate peace. No, this one was Ukraine beat the snot out of Russia. That's what this was. That's what this was a call for. Sounds a little bit different. Yeah, I didn't hear anything nefarious about this rally from Rachel Maddow. The corporate media outlets are showing this as a anti-war rally, which it clearly isn't, because they're rooting for one side to win over another instead of just a negotiation of peace. In fact, somebody gave some insights into this. Political commentator and old man Windsor, Noam Chomsky. Let's hear what he has to say.
Policy, I stress official, and that means NATO goes along, is to fight the war to weaken Russia. What happens to Ukrainians is incidental. Let's hamper negotiations, weaken the Russians, and if the Ukrainians suffer, who cares? They don't say those words, but that's what it clearly amounts to. NATO's going along, calling military aid lend-lease, is saying, okay, let's move on to a world war if necessary. Is that what we want? What we're doing in the great game is creating a Russia-China alliance supported by India and other countries of Asia, which will lead to Russia is a declining kleptocracy. They don't say those words, but that's what it clearly suffer. Who cares? They don't say those words. Ukrainians suffer. Who cares? They don't say those words, but that.
So they really don't care about Ukrainians suffering. What it really matters is that they overtake Russia. So really, when you look at it, is it really about, is it so clear that it's just a megalomaniac from Russia wanting to take over Ukraine because he just wants to expand the waters of Russia? Is that what it actually is? Is that what Putin is all about? I'm going to share with you guys a story really quick. And let's go to this, because this actually gives more insight into the thoughts of the West as they are continuing to fund and push this proxy war. Ex-Israel Prime Minister Naftali Bennett blames the West for thwarting possibility of peace between Russia and Ukraine. Naftali Bennett said that his efforts as a middleman between Russia and Ukraine was almost a success, with both countries agreeing to make concessions in a call for a truce. It said peace could have been a possibility between Russia and Ukraine shortly after the start of their conflict in February of last year. However, the latest reports shed light on the fact that Kiev's Western backers blocked the negotiations between the two neighbors. The shocking statement has been made by former Israeli Prime Minister Naftali Bennett, who mediated those contacts. Naftali says West blocked truce between Russia and Ukraine. In an interview on Israel's Channel 12, Naftali Bennett said that his efforts as middleman between Moscow and Kiev was almost a success, with both countries agreeing to make concessions and call for a truce. However, he added that it did not happen as Western backers to Ukraine stopped it from taking place. Quote, I think there's a legitimate decision by the West to keep striking Russian President Vladimir Putin. I mean, the more aggressive approach, he said. Basically, yes, they blocked it. So a question if U.S. and its allies blocked the peace process between Moscow and Kiev. Bennett, however, clarified, I claim there was a good chance of reaching a ceasefire, but I'm not claiming it was the right thing. Bennett further revealed that his mediation was coordinated to the minutest detail with U.S., France, and Germany. However, a conflict broke out. There was no unified approach on how to deal with it. British Prime Minister Boris Johnson adopted an aggressive line. German Chancellor Olaf Scholz and French President Emmanuel Macron were more pragmatic, and U.S. President Joe Biden was both. So, really, they almost had peace. A year ago. And what did Boris and Joe say? They said no. They didn't want it. So the whole reason why this is continuously going on is because it was from interference from the Prime Minister, the Prime Minister of the UK, and President Joe Biden not wanting it to happen. Why? Why? Could it be that these people are owned by the military-industrial complex? Because as we learn that, well, the United States, when it comes to giving all this money to Ukraine, that money doesn't touch Ukraine hands. It actually goes straight to the military-industrial complex. And then they collect the money, and then they send the arms to Ukraine. So that's basically what it is. So really, the perpetuation of this war is constantly being pushed by the United States government and the United Kingdom. And then you have people saying, well, we need to continuously send arms to Ukraine. But Ukrainians are losing the war. And they're dying out there. And is it really because Putin is a megalomaniac that's trying to just increase the borders? Well, you guys got to look at the history. Like what happened in 2014. In fact, it really goes all the way back to the fall of the Berlin Wall. It goes back to the fall of the Soviet Union, if you really want to go back. But the United States and NATO kept pushing and increasing NATO states against Russian borders. And so guess what? They keep threatening Russia, so they keep pushing them. Not to mention the fact that in the eastern part of Ukraine, it's more ethnic Russians and Russian-speaking Ukrainians there. And the fact that they actually want to be Russia, they want to be a Russian state. And so Russia intervened at their behest. And then next thing you know, the western part of Ukraine was like, oh, hell no, you don't. And so then they started killing thousands of people in Donbass. I'm going to show you guys something really quick. This is something that you guys need to know about. Wait, that's series film. Okay. All right. So remember last week when I had on Kevin Ronka from Right Brain Studios? I want to show you guys something. Here we go. This is Right Brain TV. They have the documentary by Oliver Stone called Ukraine on Fire. I saw this documentary. This documentary will educate you a lot on the behind the scenes of what happened and what led to the start of this war, this proxy war last year. By the way, this was deleted and you cannot watch it on YouTube any longer. It was available on YouTube. They took it down. So if you guys want to see this and get the backstory, and Oliver Stone literally is talking to Vladimir Putin about some of the backstory about what happened with Yanukovych and all that, what happened in 2014 in the Medine massacre and the Medine conflict that happened, and they even go into the Odessa massacre, then this is a great documentary to look at. If you guys have not seen it, I highly recommend. And you guys just go to Right Brain Studios, and you guys, I think it's like $5 per month. They're a streaming service. They're an anti-imperialist streaming service. How many streaming services that you know of that are anti-imperialist? I don't know of any besides Right Brain. So go ahead, and if you guys want to, you guys can get yourself a subscription to Right Brain Studios, because they're doing great work over there. And I had Kevin Ronka on last week. Great discussion. And that will also help you guys as far as your education, because you guys are going to hear and see things that you don't get from corporate media, because the corporate media is really U.S. state media. So just letting you guys know. Interesting documentary to watch. So here's another article. And this is dangerous territory, y'all. I mean, I'm telling you, this is very dangerous territory that we're in. And this is out of Common Dreams. It says Boris Johnson pressured Zelensky to ditch peace talks with Russia. Ukrainian paper. The British government has become an obstacle to peace in Ukraine. The conflict there is developing into a proxy war between Russia and NATO, and it is the Ukrainian people who will suffer the consequences. Ukrainian news outlet Ukrainianska Pravda reported Thursday that British Prime Minister Boris Johnson used this surprise visit to Kiev last month to pressure President Volodymyr Zelensky to cut off peace negotiations with Russia, even after the two sides appear to have made tenuous progress towards settlement to end the war. Citing unanimous sources from Zelensky's inner circle and advisory team, Pravda reported that Johnson brought two simple messages to Kiev. He said, first, quote, the first is that Putin is a war criminal. He should talk, huh? He should be pressured, not negotiated with. And the second is that even if Ukraine is ready to sign some agreements on guarantees with Putin, they are not. We can sign an agreement with you, Ukraine, but not with him. Anyway, he will screw everyone over, is how one of Zelensky's close associates summed up the essence of Johnson's visit. Johnson's position was that the collective West, which back in February had suggested Zelensky should surrender and flee, now felt that Putin was not really as powerful as they had previously imagined. Moreover, there's a chance to press him, and the West wants to use it. So ultimately, this is really just about arms and more funding for military. And the sad part about all this is that it's just inching us closer and closer and closer to nuclear war. And unfortunately, some people are under the impression that, oh, sending arms to Ukraine is a necessary thing in order for us to make sure that we can, in order so that we can have peace there. But that's not the case.
Well, yesterday marked a gruesome anniversary. Russia invaded Ukraine 1 year ago, and that deadly war is still going on. Here's an upsetting number. More than 200,000 people from both sides have been killed. The United States is taking extra steps to help Ukraine. The Pentagon announced a $2 billion security package. It will include more ammunition and small high-tech drones. The White House also announced a coordinated effort with G7 partners. Well, right here in the district, hundreds gathered today at the Lincoln Memorial to commemorate the 1 year anniversary of the war in Ukraine. Zach Merchant shares their message to America as they look ahead to the future of the fight and look back on how it started.
At the time, many analysts wondered if the war would last even a week. Now, 1 year later, Ukraine is still very much in the fight, but supporters at the rally today said continued Western support is needed to keep the war going.
Slava Ukraine!
Right now, I literally have goosebumps.
Did you guys hear what he just said? Hold up. Wait.
Keep the war going.
Keep the war going? Why would anybody want to keep this war going? I thought it was about saving lives. Keep the war going? This is what it's about. It was never about actually negotiating peace. If it was actually about negotiating peace, it would have taken place already. But like I just showed you guys in the article earlier, Boris Johnson and Joe Biden did not want peace. They don't. They want to keep the war going because Raytheon, Lockheed Martin, Northrop Grumman, and Boeing are making a ton of money off of this war. That's why they're not stopping it. That's why they're sending billions and billions and billions. Instead of giving money to East Palestine, Ohio, Jackson, Mississippi, instead of giving money to Flint, Michigan, so that they can revamp their infrastructure because they're literally being poisoned right now. Instead of doing that for them, guess what they're doing? Oh, well. Send it for war. That's what it is.
Slava Ukraine!
Right now, I literally have goosebumps. We're stronger than we even know.
I'm glad that we're still going strong, and I'm just praying for this to be over soon.
A day.
It won't be over until peace talks actually happen.
After the 1 year anniversary of Russia's invasion of Ukraine, supporters of the embattled country stood defiant on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial. We were given.
But the funny part is that what a lot of people don't realize is that this didn't start last year. This didn't start last year. This started back in 2014 when the United States helped do a coup in Ukraine. And even then, it didn't even start at 2014. You got to go back even further. So that's the thing. And a lot of times people they're like goldfish. They, their memories don't go back that far. And people will say, oh, last year in 2022. No. Take 2022 out of your mind. This was chickens coming home to roost. Let's go back even further. And the United States was pushing for this. This is what they wanted. This isn't something that they, this isn't something that the United States was like trying to prevent. No, they wanted this.
In 3 days, but here we are 365 days later.
Gabriela Grabowska saw Russia's February 2022 invasion firsthand. She's now a freshman at George Mason University. But before she arrived for classes in August, she was living in her hometown of Kyiv when tanks and helicopters approached.
I needed to hide in snow with my dad. He tried to cover my body because I was wearing colorful clothes.
Rally attendees thanked the United States for its support, which helped Ukraine push back those early advances.
America has stood with Ukraine every day.
And asked for continued aid to keep Ukraine supplied for the fight ahead.
We're aiming at the victory, and we're hoping to bring that victory closer.
So like I said, this was not a anti-war rally. This was a pro-war rally. Anybody saying that it was an anti-war rally, they're wrong. And you have a lot of outlets that are painting it as such. It's not. Because they're not talking about the United States stop funding the war and negotiating peace. Because who shut that door? Joe Biden shut that door. Now, there's this here. Thousands rally in D.C. in support of Ukraine. 1 year after Russian invasion. Says supporters of Ukraine rallied Saturday afternoon on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial in D.C., marking the end of the first year of the Russian invasion that killed tens of thousands of people. Blue and yellow Ukrainian flags were held high in the winter wind or wrapped around the shoulders of rallygoers who gathered on the plaza above the reflecting pool. We have a plan, which is a very simple plan, which we've had since day one. Here is the loud part that everybody needs to pay attention to. More weapons, more support to Ukraine, and more sanctions to Russia. Oksana Markarova, Ukrainian ambassador to the United States. Does that sound anti-war to you? More weapons, more support to Ukraine, and more sanctions to Russia. Does that sound anti-war to you? Guess what? It's not. It's not anti-war. What did she say? Makarova? She said, "Thank you, Americans, for each weapon, for each taxpayer's dollars of help, for each prayer, for each flag that we see outside of American houses." Does that sound like an anti-war rally? Doesn't sound like one to me. And in pushing this, they push the doomsday clock closer than I've ever seen before in my life. Doomsday clock says a time of unprecedented danger. It is 90 seconds to midnight. The closest it's ever been was 2 minutes. Now we're at 90 seconds to midnight. So that's the issue right now. Meanwhile, all over the world, especially in places like Germany, they're holding anti-war rallies, actual peace rallies, and pushing for ceasefire. Here's Claire Daly sharing rally. Says ceasefire now, support peace talks, no nuclear escalation, stop NATO expansion, negotiate peace. Thousands on the streets in Brussels yesterday demanding de-escalation and peace talks. The European peace movement will not be silenced. You have people here in Europe saying, no, stop escalation, stop sending money, stop sending weapons.
Stop the overthrow! 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 Stop the overthrow!
So that's what's going on in Europe. And it's going on in more cities across Europe because they're seeing the results of this war, especially when the Nord Stream 2 pipeline was destroyed by the United States. That's already been documented and put into the record by Cy Hirsch, so we don't need to debate that. The United States actually did it. It's done, right? The United States really were the ones that sabotaged Germany, and so now Germany has fuel prices that are skyrocketing now because they actually have to get their liquefied natural gas from the United States instead of the cheap Russian liquefied natural gas from Russia. So instead, now what's going on is their prices are skyrocketing because they can't afford it, and it's costing them not just the lives of their neighbors over there in Ukraine and in Russia, but it's also costing them their lives because now they are being affected economically. And so they're sick and tired of it. And we're sick and tired of sending our billions of tax dollars over to the military industrial complex to fight a proxy war just so that they can get their hands on Russian on what Russia has. Their oil, their natural gas, their land. That's really what it's about. And even here in the United States, like I said, what happened last year? Last year, it was an anti-war rally called Rage Against the War Machine. Now, many people have some disagreements with who was there and whatnot, and that's fine. Okay. But rest assured that the message at the rally was that, no, we need to stop this war, and it needs to end, not continue it, not continue one side or the other. That's the point. And a lot of time, and a lot of people like Rachel Maddow were talking about how small and tiny this rally was, when really it wasn't tiny. In fact, here's what Max Blumenthal showed.
Coming up for you next, was there anybody here who
Make some
might have
noise
attended
on the
it
gray
wrong?
zone. Come on, make noise. Gray zone. Get up, get up. Make some noise, make some noise. You're live, you're live.
They're going to get set up for us right now. Jordan is a liberty lover, a lawful advocate, libertarian. Coming up for you next.
So that's what happened. So one anti-war rally and then one pro-war rally, basically. But the pro-war rally got more coverage. That's our system.